Okay, welcome people. Welcome to Real CINC, our channel where we discuss latest trends in real estate and the best tactics to stay ahead, usually with clients or our own experts. I'm Alvaro Erize, the CEO of CINC, and today I'm joined by two of my good friends and local experts. Our foremost expert in lead generation, Lott, head of our lead generation department, and has been with us for 8 years, I think, and 11 years in real estate lead generation. Dan, say hi.
Hello. How are you?
And then Harry. Harry is our social lead generation guru. He is our total expert on Facebook. He has been the brains behind products like Lead Ads and Listcast, and comes here to tell us what we should be doing in that front.
Yes, sir. Hey, everybody. Glad to be here.
Cool. So today our goal is to share with you every insight that we have on what is happening with lead generation, how is it changing in these uncertain times, and how are we reacting to it, and maybe tell you also some pointers of how you should be reacting. So we'll go through everything, all of the different products. How do we think they're impacting in overall, general, but also in specific sites? So what I'd say is, if you have questions as we're talking about this, don't wait till the end. Put those questions in the chat box. I will be reading them up while Dan and Harry walk us through everything that they have prepared. So with that, Dan, do you want to start on the Google world?
Sure. Yeah. So I oversee the Google spend in particular, and when the coronavirus hit, we knew that there was going to be a disruption in our search traffic, and we heard immediately from our clients and from our salespeople who were talking to our clients about like what is going to happen with search traffic. Like, are people going to stop looking for homes online? And initially, we thought that what was going to happen is there's going to be an initial hit of search volume was going to go down dramatically, and then it is going to gradually pull out of it. And that analysis was based on it was based on our history of looking at accounts on a daily basis, a yearly basis, of seeing these trends of on specific days of the year, search traffic goes up and down. Bigger days like Christmas, traffic goes down, and then on minor holidays like President's Day, traffic goes up. So we anticipated that first week out of the box, right after the coronavirus hit, traffic was going to plummet, and then it was going to come back. And that is actually what's happened. And it has improved better than I anticipated it was going to improve. And so I'm just going to walk you through some of the numbers and give a forecast as to what we can expect going forward. So I'm going to share my screen here.
Okay, let's see if this works. Awesome. Hey, first try, Dan. Congrats.
All right. There we go. Recovered after mid-month decline. So March 12th is what we use as the the beginning of the crisis, because that was when the NBA made their announcement, and I think Tom Hanks had coronavirus that day, and so that was pretty much when everybody it all sort of fell apart. So before then, it was things are proceeding as normal. We were spending $45,000 a day, which is across our portfolio of accounts. We have around 3,000 accounts. So we have a good cross section of real estate businesses around the country. So we were spending $45,000 a day, which is on average, which is that was what we wanted to spend. And then immediately it fell 15%, 20% for the first week, and then which we are used to very steady results. So the fact that this happened was it was not unexpected from the results, but it was very different than what we've experienced in the past.
But Dan, what does that mean? So when you say you went from 45,000 to 39,000, is that because people called and said, I want to spend less, or is that because you couldn't spend the money because of the supply?
That was, yeah, we couldn't, the search traffic decreased so much that we were unable to spend our budgets. So we had budgeted to spend around $45,000 or $50,000 a day, but because search volume decreased, we were not able to spend it. So it sunk down around 15% down to 39,000 a day.
And I think it's safe to say we never know why, but there has to be a connection there. That week, everyone was stuck to the TV on Fox and CNN, seeing if the world was ending, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a huge disruption. You're trying to figure out, your kids have their school's just been canceled. So what are you going to do? So your office is now closed. What are you going to do? Like the CINC office closed on Friday. So we just had to, for around a week, everybody is getting their routine in place. They're assembling their home office. They're arranging daycare. They're doing, or childcare. They're doing all these very strange things for the first week. And one of the things they're not doing is getting online and looking at houses because they're busy, putting together their home office. So that took around a week. And then that created pent up demand of, like, even though all this disruption happened, a person still wants to look for a house. They still want to move. So right after that was a big spike. That's around a 30% spike in traffic from 39 up to 52. So we were exceeding the daily spend, our targeted daily spend, actually, for those days. And we had, I'm going to show some kind of some interesting stats. But anyway, here's the site visits by day. And it's not all that exciting to look at, but it's very exciting to me. But you can tell, like, in the middle of the week in March 11 to 12, that was very, very low site traffic. That was probably the lowest site traffic we'd had in around a year. And then, but gradually it picked up. You see the spikes; those are weekends. Weekend traffic is higher. So, but then you'll see over as the month progresses, specifically over like March 23rd, 25th, 26th. That's when we ran the numbers. It's going up, and those, like, that's a Wednesday, a Thursday, and a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and those are the highest we've had on those specific days in several months. So by the end of the month, we had any sort of issues we had in generating traffic had gone away, and we had 9 straight days of $50,000 plus spends, and that was the first time in a year that that's happened. So it was really good results. It was kind of, we expected something would happen in the middle of the month, and it did happen, but it's always a little kind of worrisome that it did happen. But we are encouraged and optimistic as to how it's been over the last 10 days, and that's bears it out in this chart.
Dan, before you keep going, we have a question on whether we're going to send these data points out. I think not everything we're going to show today we can send out, but I think we can at least clean up some numbers and show the aggregated results on many of these things.
Yeah, sure. And also, Harry and I both wrote blogs that are on the cincpro.com website. That has a little bit more data in it too, so you might want to check those out also. And
Diana, I also recommend, we're going to send out the link, so you can also have them see this little webinar if they have the time. But we will share as much as we can.
And then this is an aggregate. One of the things that I'm sure our clients are thinking is like, well, that's great, but I'm in a state which is on shutdown. You're not allowed to quarantining and things like that. How would that affect the traffic? And this is interesting. All right, so
wait, one more. Yes, this is the first time that Harry has worn a collar shirt, at least in my presence. So that's
I wear collared shirts all the time at home. I just take them off to come to work. My pajamas.
Sorry, Dan.
All right. So the green line shows that's the same line that we saw in the last chart. You can see these are the 5 states that were first who had shut down to that had the governor made the restrictions on who could leave their houses and things like that. And all except for New York, the search traffic is higher than the ones that are not shut down. If you look on the side, like Illinois is really high. Over the course of the month, Illinois is really high, and Washington's very high, California's high, and New Jersey is high. New York, we actually don't have a lot of clients in New York, but that one is a little bit less. That's at around 80% of the 100% index that we did. So people who are not able to leave their houses are more inclined to be online and looking for houses, is something that I guess I could tell you. And one of the good things about this over the last month has been the conversion rate. The cost per lead is what we look at, and one of the major factors is the conversion rate, and that is the percentage of people who, after they've seen an ad, clicked on the ad, and they've gone to the website, the percent of them who actually become a lead. And that's one of the metrics we look at. This is Alvaro's favorite metric. And it has, you can tell, we've been increasing over the last couple of years, but over the last 2 weeks, last week and then today, I just reran the numbers, and today was the best in over 4 years. And again, it's because people realize it's similar to on January 1st, the best day of the year for conversion rate is always January 1st. And it is because people, we think it's because people have their New Year's resolution, and they are going to buy a house. That's a New Year's resolution. So they get online, they fill out the form, and they become a lead. They're adamant about it. I think that's now, again, there was a big spike, and it's because, well, I'm here, I'm stuck in this house, and I'm going to make a change. I'm going to look for a house. So I think that's why it's gone up a lot. It was like, you can't really, this is kind of over time, so it doesn't really show the gravity of it, but it's around 1 or 2 percentage points, which when we look at that, that's a very big increase. So that's good, and that helps the number.
Outside of this moment in Corona, I need to say this because, as Dan says, this is my favorite graph. If you look the difference between the last year or mid 2018 and now, that 20% spike is the best news that CINC has had in the last 5 years. Because cost per lead can go down because we do a great job in finding the right traffic and sending the right traffic to the site, but nothing is more important than people deciding voluntarily to leave you their information when they get that registration box. And the fact that that went up in 20% in the last year says that people are trusting your site more. So it's not only that your cost per lead goes down, it's that you are getting more buy-in from those viewers in that they believe your site is valuable enough for them to leave their information. And a lot of this has been the fantastic automation work by this team that is here talking to you now. And a lot of this has been through the enormous improvements that the site itself has gone through. So I'll say this, if you're not on the Castle framework, if you're not on the latest websites that we have, then you are not taking advantage of this that you're seeing right here. And you're leaving both money on the table from a cost per lead point of view, but also you're providing less value to your consumers than you could. So once more, you need to be in the Castle website, and if not, you should talk to your account manager now and get on it, because this is fantastic news. And in this particular situation with Corona, and we're seeing that spike, means that not only people want to search for houses more, they're willing to trust you with their information more. So this is absolutely great news.
All right. This was just an interesting data tidbit. Is since this has happened, the share of traffic of desktop versus mobile has increased. And Harry's going to show you the complete opposite with Facebook in a little bit, but I think that's interesting. People are home; they have more access to their desktop. They don't feel they don't feel bad about having, they don't have to be afraid that Alvaro's going to look at you over your shoulder to see that you're looking at houses. So
we still do that even when you're at home. Then
that's right. So, but yeah, as you can tell, and it's again, this is kind of like a long-term. Or it's a kind of a flat chart, but you're looking at around a 2 or 3% bump, which is just interesting, and we can make some optimizations based on that. So that's why we're tracking all these data points, and it's very strange because as Alvaro said, like we've been doing this for many years. Like I've been doing this for 8 years. So the fact that something, there's been interesting trends during the course of a month, it's kind of unprecedented.
Back to the question. So a couple of people asked whether I said castle or casa. I'm sorry for my accent. It is the castle framework, although I'm going to start implementing things in Spanish in the company. But the best way to know if you're in the latest version, you should all be. We've been trying to move everyone and convince everyone to move. But best thing you can do, shoot a quick note to your account manager. It's a good moment to talk to them anyway. Just ask them if you're in the castle framework. You should be, and if not, they should move you there immediately.
All right, and so we talked about some of the changes that happened. It's like, well, so what? You know, things have gone up, things have gone down. So what can you do to make sure that we get as many leads as possible? So I guess the most important thing for this month in particular is that we knew what was going to happen in terms of we were able to forecast what was going to happen. So we didn't make any. There's lots of levers we can pull to increase lead flow, decrease lead flow, increase bids, increase budgets, do a whole bunch of stuff, change, skew up desktop versus mobile bids, things like that. But we expected that this was going to happen, so we didn't over make additional changes during the middle of the month to make sure that we spent $55,000 a day during the middle of the month. So we just used based on our forecast, so we let it ride, and that's exactly what it was the right thing to do. And we've just over the last week we've had very good results. We're very happy about what's happening. And then, but also because we've made some optimizations based on what's happened. Like we have made adjustments on some of the desktop and mobile bids and things like that, just because there are new traffic patterns. And I would expect that over time there are going to be some minor changes that are going to happen as people get more in their process and all.
What happened on the time of day? So you were tracking amongst the different things, whether those behaviors changed.
There's a very minor, I was going to put that a chart on that, but there's a larger shift of traffic towards the 9 to 5 period than there, as opposed to like a greater share of the traffic is during the day versus at night. And it's minor, but that's something we're looking at, because I assume that as people get more they get more set in their ways, that might actually increase, and so that'd be a good thing. Just having more leads during the day is a good thing.
Perfect. And then, just so people know, that's when Dan talks about optimizations, that's what we're talking about, which is following closely those trends, whether it's time or day of week, or the keywords that we're searching for. Everything is geared towards maximizing finding those people that actually want to convert. And there was a question from Jeff before saying, well, do those spikes mean just more traffic? Does that mean that there are more people looking for houses, or just more people are bored and just looking for something to do? And I'd say, well, do you want to go for it, Dan?
I would say it's both. It's just there's more search traffic on the weekends. Sunday is always the top day. Saturday's the second day in terms of amount of search traffic, and that's just because. And one thing, I don't know why Sunday is more popular than Saturday, because you're off both days, but Sunday is always the top one, and it's just that's when people have time to spend an hour or two looking at houses. And if you're going to spend an hour or two looking at houses, you're probably not a looky-loo, where you're not just doing it to kill time. You're interested in buying a house. That's my theory. I don't know if that's true, but it would make sense.
And I'll give mine. So Jeff, I'll talk at the end. I don't think that the number of houses sold this year is going to change too much, either up or down. Although again, I'll get back on that at the end. But the spike in traffic right now does represent that more people are hanging out and looking around. So it might require additional effort from you and your agents in doing more calls. At the same time, I think the opportunity of successfully establishing those relationships with clients is higher than before too. So I think although you may have to go through more calls, you also have a higher chance of ultimate success at the end in the absolute number of real connections that you can do. So yes, I do think that it's a little bit of both, but I do think that that's an opportunity.
And then just overall, this is something we do on a constant basis where we keep on improving and innovating. And we're in the process of launching a new hyper-local ad group tool, which we are going to talk about at the in CINC Rev, which is coming up next week. I'm going to have a presentation on this and just the importance of hyper-local advertising. This is a new thing that we have been working on for years, and we're about to release it, which will allow you to do hyper-local advertising. Like if you're interested in Marietta, we will be able to drill down and get additional leads in Marietta or Scottsdale or whatever city you're in, just based on some of the submarkets that are within Marietta. So that's just one of the, like, we're constantly working on things like this. That's going to have a huge impact on our department going forward. So I'm very excited about that. And I just wanted to plug my upcoming CINC Rev performance that you can register for and see in a week. All right, so we've been doing, that's all we've done this month. And so this has been the most hectic month of the last 8 years in terms of Google search traffic. And we've been raising bids, lowering bids, we've been changing budgets. There's been lots of optimizations behind the scenes. And so what has it done? We have had a 10% better cost per lead this month than in 2019. So even though this has been a difficult month, and even with that, we've been able to make adjustments, and our cost per lead has improved 10% versus March of last year. And so we're pretty, we're pretty pleased with the results, and we expect better things for April, just because the last week has been really, really strong. So that is what Google has been. Google has been fairly steady. I think the bigger story is with Facebook, and you might have read articles about it, but I don't want to step on Harry's comments, but Facebook has been really good. So I'm going to hand it off to Harry.
Yep.
Harry.
Oh, all right.
Successful transition.
Man.
Yes.
Wow. Almost as if we were a tech company. That's good.
I know. All right. So very cool. Thank you, Dan. So I figured I would talk about the social side of things. For those of you that don't know me, I am Harry Kierbow. I'm the Senior Director of Paid Social over at CINC. Some call me Hot Sauce. You can call me whatever you like, as long as you call me, because that's what keeps me employed. And if anybody wants to email Alvaro and tell him what a great job I do on this presentation, that would be good too.
You can put it in the comments and on our Facebook group.
So what we're seeing across social, and you guys can see my screen, yeah? Can you? Alvaro, can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so what we're seeing across social is that it's just exploding. The traffic itself is similar to the day after a holiday, or the time in between Christmas to New Year's and into the beginning of January, where there's just more people on Facebook and Instagram, which is actually causing our costs to go down. And the main difference there too is, if you think about social during, let's say, the last quarter of the year, so Thanksgiving, Black Friday, into Christmas to New Year's, usually there's a big uptick in competition at that time, with brands going in or upping their ad spend. And I mean, whether you're targeting real estate or someone looking to buy something else, we're targeting people that have income. So a lot of the targeting that we all have it overlaps. So it creates increased competition. So we're kind of seeing two things here. We're seeing more people are home, so they're online more, and then B, some advertisers, whether it's real estate or just in general, are dropping out altogether at this time And so our ads are winning more auctions for Facebook runs auctions to determine which ads to show to people. So our ads are winning more auctions, they're being shown more, and the reach is just exploding. So if you guys did read my blog post, it's on blog.cincpro.com, shameless plug. But if you guys did read the blog post, you may have seen this already. This just shows the increase in reach since March 14th. So like Dan said, you had March 12th is when the NBA suspends the season, and we all find out Tom Hanks is ill. For us here in Georgia, for me here in Georgia, that was the last day that my son went to school. So March 12th, March 13th is that Friday. That's when you've really got behaviors changing. Though some people did still, go to work. Some schools were still open. School was open here on the 13th. From the 14th on is really when that behavior starts changing, and that's really when we start to see the results. So the reach, and what reach is, it's the number of people that saw your ad. If one person saw the ad twice, the reach of that would be 1, but you would have 2 impressions. So the reach is just skyrocketing, and this isn't even our entire portfolio. This data is taken from a segment of the portfolio. And so I know some of you guys like charts. I like to just look at numbers here. So this is that data that's shown on the chart. So reach is growing daily on Facebook and Instagram. And again, this just goes to the 23rd because this is the data that I used for my post. Impressions are also growing, just exploding. But then another thing that's interesting is, a lot of time we see, maybe the impressions go up, but the reach isn't going up. And what that means is the audience size is still the same. They're just seeing your ads more than once. And there can be what's called ad fatigue, where at a certain point that actually hurts you. We're not seeing that. The frequency that we're seeing is still less than 2, which is good. So there's more people in the audience, and the ads themselves are just being shown more because there's less competition and there's more opportunities for Facebook to show them. And so then I wanted to go through and look at the data by the 3 different ad types that we have. So we have buyer ads on Facebook and Instagram, seller ads on Facebook and Instagram, and then Listcast, which is our dynamic property remarketing product. So starting with the buyer side, we looked at 3 key metrics. The first was CPM. It stands for cost per milli. That's the cost that it takes to show your ads to 1,000 people. So we've seen that cost drop by almost 30%. And again, that's coming from more people on Facebook, less competition on Facebook and Instagram. The conversion rate has actually dropped since the 14th. And this was surprising to me. But when you think about it, it makes sense, right? So we've got a bunch of new people that are in the audience. Facebook is still determining exactly what their interests are, exactly what ads people should show to them. I looked for it for this presentation, but I couldn't find it again. But I did see an article where a lot of millennials that previously left Facebook were coming back to Facebook. So there's a whole new segment of the audience that's been added. So our conversion rate has actually dropped. But because there are so many,
Harry, can you explain what you mean by conversion rate? So they're asking what you track as conversion rate.
Sure, absolutely. Sorry. So conversion rate to us, when we quote conversion rate, that's the number of people that clicked on an ad that then converted, right? So for our Facebook buyer, as an example, they saw an ad for homes for sale in Woodstock. That's where I live. They saw an ad, they clicked learn more, the form came up. If they go all the way through and submit their information, that's a conversion. If they fall off for some reason, that's not a conversion. So the conversion rate is measuring the rate at which people that click into the form complete it.
So just to make a comment, because for you guys, conversion is that. For me and most of our clients, conversion is the chance of a lead actually resulting in a closing after. So I see that question from some on what is the conversion rate for Google versus Facebook. What they're talking here it's really not really comparable because it's different behaviors. In Google, someone was looking at a house, got the registration form, and the question is how many actually registered. Yeah, while the behavior in Facebook is a little bit different. So I wouldn't really compare them, but what I would compare is today we've seen conversion in general go up in Google, which I think it's amazing, and we need to keep that trend up. I think Facebook, yes, it did worsen because of what Harry said, which is we're just reaching a much bigger population and a lot of people, and that might end up on what Jeff was saying, that it might take sifting through more people to get to the people that are ready to establish a connection. But at the same time, the increase in reach is so significant that on an absolute basis, it's giving you more opportunities. That's why the cost per lead overall has been going down. But it's that massive reach improvement that has impacted conversion for sure.
Right, yeah, and if you think about it too, there's a tenet of online marketing called the rule of 7, which estimates that people need to see an ad at least 7 times before they make some kind of decision. So if you think about it like that, we've got a ton of new people that were just dropped into the audience that are being exposed to our ads that weren't before. So that, I think that's also playing a part in why we've seen the conversion rate fall. And I expect that that will increase as those people continue to take action on ads on Facebook and Instagram. And as they see the ads more, I expect the conversion rate will come back up. But even though it's dropped, it's still very good. It's fallen from somewhere from 16% to about 14.5%, 15%. So that's still well above the industry average. But I just thought it was interesting in comparing 3.1 to 3.13 versus 3.14 to 3.28, that we've actually seen a drop in conversion rate, but cost per lead has also fallen. Cost per lead has improved. And like you were saying, Alvaro, I think there's so many more people, our reach has expanded so much, we're actually driving more leads, even though it's slightly less efficient than it was 2 weeks ago.
And one more comment. So I saw your question, Sherry, so her question is, I wish the registration information was legitimate. There should be a better way to confirm that. And so especially Facebook is a great resource if you care a lot about that, because on Facebook, usually the information is guaranteed to be right because they're using their Facebook user. But I wouldn't discount the people that put the bad information. So in Google, I think that there is a legitimate reason to let people that don't want to give you their information yet still operate in the site. Our site is attractive enough that we'll keep getting them back. And yes, we do things like when they come back, we try to convince them to put the right number. So there's different tricks we use to try to improve that information. But the amount of closings that we see from people that was just lurking in the site for a year until they decided to actually engage is huge. And the biggest tool, the best tool that we have today to follow up with those people, whether they give you the right information or not, is Listcast. So again, if that is something of a pain point of yours, I think Facebook helps solve that by giving you more accurate information, whether the person wants it or not. And in the case of Google, I absolutely think you should be using Listcast. And I see you're asking what Listcast is, which pains me because that's a very important product that we need to be pushing. We'll get to Listcast at the end of this, and we'll explain it then. But it's a way where you can keep following up with people that visited your site, whether they registered or not.
Yep. So yeah, moving on from this. Another thing that Alvaro asked us to look at was, how are the states that are being shut down for security reasons, how is that search traffic being impacted? I know Dan looked at it on the Google side. I've got some numbers here, of the 26 states that are shut down, and this was according to research that I did yesterday. And these are totally shut down. So not at a state level, they've issued a shelter-in-place order or have closed businesses, that kind of stuff. So we have ads in 21 of those 26 states that are currently running. Over half of them has seen a drop in cost per lead since the 14th of March of at least a quarter, 25 cents. And then about 14% of those are worse. and then 29%, the remaining 6, are unchanged. So their cost per lead hasn't changed more than 25 cents either way, good or bad. So 12 of those 21 are better, 3 are slightly worse, and then 6 are basically the same. And as we go through this, we're seeing the same trend.
To give 2 examples of your chart, so people in New Hampshire should see that their lead flow should be down, because there in New Hampshire it is true that less people are searching and then cost is going up, and you see that in the second line. Well, for example, in Illinois, it's gone significantly down, so your lead flow should be up. So this is just showing you all around, but overall, when you take all of the shutdown states, it's on the positive.
Right, and again, that makes sense. You know, people, it's like a holiday. It's like that time after Christmas. People are in their home, not as much to do, so they're spending more time on Facebook and Instagram. So overall, Facebook and Instagram buyer, our daily lead flow is up by just over 20% since the 14th of March, and we're seeing, 368 was already one of the better cost per leads we've ever seen from Facebook. That's dropped another 50 cents just in the last 2 weeks to $3.18.
So I see some people asking specifically about their region. My recommendation is, if you have the time, call into your account manager and ask to go through your campaign with your lead gen specialist. Again, I'll say this later, but we're all working overtime to make sure that we can get to all your answers. This team here and everyone that works for Dan and Harry are willing to spend as much time necessary. So I'd rather you call in and we'll go through your campaign, make sure that it is optimized, and we're doing the best that can be done for you, and you'll also get answers to those specific questions in your market.
All right.
And one more thing, there was a question from Sam on quality of leads coming from social versus Google. I'll say a generic answer now, and I'll punt it till the end, which is they're different. So we do see many times that social tend to be a little bit longer cycle, and Google can be shorter cycle, but there is value to having both, and having your clients work alternating between those two. So then at the end, I will ask him what is like a generic distribution of what he recommends to have both breadth and depth in lead generation. So we'll get that at the end.
Yeah, and I get asked that question a lot too. What I generally say, if you don't mind, do you mind if I go ahead, Alvaro?
Yeah, no, please do.
All right. So the way that I generally tell people to look at it is, when you start a relationship with CINC, we don't have customers, we have clients, right? So this isn't a one and done, or I'm going to do this for 3 months, make a lot of money and drop out. We're forming a partnership that will hopefully run the life of your business and will see you scale up and up and up if that's what you want to do. So that's why we recommend that people run across Google and social. On the Google side, the cost tends to be higher, but they are more, like Alvaro said, the ready now leads, because there's a lot more activity on their part. But then on the social side, the cost per lead is lower. We do have some of those ready now people, because most people are on Google that are also on Facebook. But you're also building up your pipeline so that 3, 6, 9 months down the road, you're really just rolling, So that's why we recommend that people run on both. But yes, Alvaro is right. They are different. They're very different, because on the Google side, people are doing more activity to see those ads, or on Facebook, we're saying, we think someone that looks like this and lives in this area is likely to buy a home in the near future.
So 2 more, one up there. I saw Robert, can you guys please add the request virtual showing? That doesn't have to do with this directly. We are working on that. So we absolutely will have an update on some features that we will be releasing specifically for the current moment. Not today, but we're working hard on that and hope to have something soon. And then we have a question from our friend Mark McManus. And so, Harry, do you anticipate a significant increase in CPL as once everything passes? Should we be planning to increase ad spend as we come out of this and the saturation of advertisers returns?
So, so just to make sure I heard you right, did Mark say they are expecting a big increase in CPL once everything levels out? Or was he asking?
He's asking whether he should keep some dry powder for after this when everyone rushes back into the market and cost per stop.
So what I've generally been advising people is, if you can, it makes sense to advertise, now and start building that pipeline as more advertisers are dropping out. I do think that, once the competition comes back, I think we will see costs increase slightly from what they are now. But I mean, if you look at it, $3.68 is what we were at before all this started. We have seen a drop, but the cost per lead is still very strong, So what I've been advising people to do is, if you can, now is a good time to continue ads, or even, increase your ad budget or start a campaign to take advantage of the decreased competition. But I don't think that, once everything levels out and advertisers come back to Facebook, I mean, we aren't going to be going up to, like a $20 cost per lead or anything like that. It will still be very low and one of the best in the industry.
So Mark, I'll give you my answer too, because I absolutely agree with Harry. I would be spending it now rather than later for slightly different reasons. I don't care so much about cost per lead. What I care is this. You have now a lot of people starving for human connection that are willing to pick up the phone and have conversations, and half of the realtors in North America are hiding under their beds because they don't know what to do. So this is the moment for you to be reaching out and establishing those connections, not the day after all this finishes when everyone is rushing back to work and also all those realtors that were hiding suddenly come back out and start reaching out to them. So independently of cost per lead, those human connections are going to get created in the next month or two, and whoever is not doing it now is going to be out of the game. So I would invest on it now rather than later. And then there's a question from Linda on, will you update the automatic drip campaign to reflect the current market circumstances with more soft sale and humanity of some sort? So we're not doing sweeping changes to what our campaigns are, because every client is different and these have been approved by all our clients through time. But we are rolling out specific campaigns that you can update for this moment. And so I recommend everyone, if you go to our CINC Mastermind Facebook page, after this, there's a specific thread on these new content that is being placed out there, and you should engage and put it into effect if that's what you want.
Good to go?
Yes, Harry. Thank you.
All right. All right. So we forged bravely ahead and looking at the seller side. I mean, really, it's a different ad type, but the story is very similar. We've seen a huge drop in cost per impression. This is slightly bigger than the buyer drop. We've also seen a drop in cost per lead, or I'm sorry, a drop in conversion rate. But because there are so many new people being added to the audience and competition has decreased so much, we're seeing cost per lead fall. And again, I think we'll see the same trend with conversion rate. We've got a lot of new people that are seeing their ads for the first time. Facebook is not as well versed on, what this person is likely to click on. So as the algorithms learn what these people are interested in, and as they're more exposed to our ads, I expect the conversion rate will continue to, will not continue, but will increase back to where it was. And again, we're not talking about a huge drop. I think on the seller side, we went from right around 10.5% to 9.5%, something like that. So it's still well above the industry average, but we are seeing it drop, and that's an interesting trend that speaks to the behavior that people have as we navigate this time. Again, different ad type, very similar story when we look at the shutdown states. So with the shutdown states, For the seller side, we've got 26 again. So that same list of 26 states that are shut down. We're currently running ads for sellers in 19 of those. 13 of those states, so about 68%, have seen a drop in cost per lead. 5 of those 19, so about 26%, have seen an increase in cost per lead, and then 1 is the same as it was. So similar trends, if you look at the percentages, whether it's buyer or seller, and this was really interesting to me. Like, one of the things that I really hoped to find was, hey man, like, buyer is skyrocketing, but seller has really dropped out, you know? So one of my recommendations would be to take your seller spend and put it to buyer. That's not the case. Both of these ad types are seeing increased strength because of what's going on, because there are more people and because there's less competition.
So Harry, amico Indiana, love your shirt. Thank you. I didn't wear it by chance. I think talking about mine and the Golden Knights, there's a reason for it, which is I was humbled. Of course, I'm a big fan of the Golden Knights, and I go to Vegas often for our meetings with Fidelity. And I was there in the first game of the Golden Knights after the shooting in Vegas. And that's where Vegas Strong got born. And in that first game, we had all of the first responders coming onto the ice and being honored for their strength. And I saw that city rise from what seemed was going to be a killing blow for them economically and in many senses. And I think that's where we are in the world today. And if we all react like Vegas did that day, then we're going to get through this stronger than ever before. So thank you. I love this t-shirt too.
Yes, sir. I don't know if you know this about me, Alvaro, but I actually play ice hockey. I'm a goalie.
I know that.
Fleury's my boy. I love Fleury.
I think we deserve a picture of you in full goalie outfit in our CINC mastermind group after this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've got some good ones. So looking at the shutdown states, similar trend to the buyer. Again, similar trend to the buyer. The daily lead flow is up over 20% since the 14th. And that's a huge adjustment in just 2 weeks. Like, that's a huge change. And especially when we haven't made a huge shift in strategy or anything. It's just there are more opportunities out there. And the cost per lead again has dropped on the seller side almost a full $1 in the last 2 weeks. So that's a huge change. I mean, there's no other way to say it. So then want to talk briefly about Listcast as well. I know, Alvaro, somebody had asked, what is Listcast? So Listcast is our dynamic property remarketing service. The best example that always helps people is, if you've ever gone to like Foot Locker or something like that online, or I remember Dan always used to use the example of chainsaws, which used to make me laugh. So I'm going to use chainsaws. Let's say that. Oddly specific.
On his free time, Dan is a mass murderer, just so you
Anyway, by laughing at that doesn't make me complicit. I just want to state that. But so if you're on, let's say you go to HomeDepot.com, you're looking at a chainsaw that you want to buy for whatever reason, and you don't buy it, right? Let's say then you go back to Facebook or Instagram and you look and, hey, that's that chainsaw that I was just looking at, right? Home Depot is showing you an ad for that chainsaw. It may also have similar chainsaws if you'd like to continue your chainsaw browsing. So Listcast is the same thing, but it keys off of different stuff and it's specific to real estate. So, whereas Home Depot may say, okay, Dan's looking at chainsaws that are very quiet, between $100 and $200, let's show them a bunch that are similar. Listcast is saying, okay, this user on this specific CINC client site is looking for properties, and it keys off of things like the city, square footage, number of beds and baths, the year it was built, the price point. So it's keying off of all of that stuff. So then when somebody comes back to Facebook and Instagram after and Google as well, after they've searched your site, we're able to show them ads that are dynamically or automatically created that pull properties that are as similar to what they were looking at on your site as possible. And then, each time that person clicks back, we learn more about what they're searching. So every time they go back to Facebook or Instagram, they're seeing those ads, and those ads are more and more and more relevant each time they interact with our site. So we're keeping leads engaged with your site, and then we're also taking the people that are potential leads that clicked to your site and left without registering, and we're showing them ads trying to bring them back. So we're furthering ROI on any ad spend, because one of our favorite things with Listcast is any person from any source that hits your website, whether it's an email or a Zillow lead, or you just spoke to someone on the street and sent them to your site, they're entered into that audience and eligible to see ads. So we're furthering that ROI across the board. And it's, one of the common questions that we get is, what's better, Facebook or Google? Listcast takes everything and makes it stronger. And we think that Listcast is really important now, because you've got more people that are dropping into the top of that funnel. There's more people searching on Google, there's more people on Facebook and Instagram, so more people are dropping into the top of that funnel, and it's going to most likely be a little bit of time before they can actually go and look at homes, and these leads are long-term anyway. So this is a great way to stay in front of those leads, and keep them engaged with you and your site over the next 2-3 months, whatever that might be. So again, you want to go?
I'll answer a couple of the questions that came up, hopefully all at the same time. The first thing, so as to summarize what Harry's saying, Listcast does two things. It allows, when someone comes to the site but doesn't register and goes away, or if they register with false information and you're not being able to get a hold of them, what it does is it follows them around, and it gives you a second, a third, and a fourth chance of getting them to register, and register with the right information. But beyond that, it also helps the people that did register. It helps you to keep in touch with them in a valuable way, giving them value. The property alert is the most valuable thing that was invented in real estate tech. And this allows you to put a property alert in their Facebook feed. And the numbers that you're seeing below, you see, yes, so CPM improved by 25%, conversion rate worsened, but in following up with the people that did register, the only thing that matters is that 25% improvement. So It means you're even getting better and cheaper at getting in front of more of the people that registered for you. And yes, it is an extra cost, Linda. It depends on how much you want to spend on it. But what I'll say, and this will connect with what I'll say at the end, because we absolutely, and sorry, there was another question there on the Google offering 540 million of ads for small businesses. So we're reaching out to our Google rep and see if we can do joint ask from all of our clients for that. But what I'll say before any of that is we are going to start that ball rolling. So to anyone, any site owner that goes back to our CINC Facebook group and tells us what your favorite part of this webinar was, we will put $100 on a Listcast account for you this month, because we want you using it. This is the moment to use it. And if you already have Listcast, we will add $100, so still go and do it. We want you doing. This is the best product that we have. It multiplies the value of the other products. You should have at least $100 or $200 a month going on it. It makes everything more powerful. So take me up on this offer. Go to our Facebook mastermind group, comment something, and we will reach out to you and get that started for you.
Cool. Yep. So yeah, looking at the Listcast spend, and another way to think of it is your Google, your Facebook buyer, your Facebook seller. Those are your handshake with those leads. We call that cold traffic targeting, because you're making a first impression there. The only way that someone sees an ad for Listcast is that they're looking at properties on your site. So it's just a way to augment the return that you're going to get from those other ad spends.
Perfect.
And then, so Dan showed that the desktop was actually overtaking mobile in some cases on the search side. Man, mobile has just doubled down on social, and that makes sense. You know, the only time that I'm on Facebook on a computer is when I'm working in the ads manager. Other than that, I'm on my phone. And the share of people that are accessing Facebook and Instagram on mobile has increased since the 14th. It's over 90% now. And that speaks to, you know, that's why we've gone, or one of the reasons why we've gone so heavy into the lead ads, because they're so optimized for mobile. You know, this was a long time ago, but maybe I think it was in 2017. You know, that was one of our huge focuses, was how do we take advantage of the mobile traffic on social, because our conversion rate there was so much lower than it was on desktop. If desktop was somewhere around 10, mobile was somewhere around 4.5%. And I don't know if you guys know how the Facebook algorithms work. Facebook injects spend into the avenues that it sees as performing the best. So the cost per click on mobile was so much lower. It was in the 20-cent range, I think, compared to like 40 to 50 cent on desktop. So Facebook would take our spend and funnel it there. But the conversion rate was so low that it actually increased the cost per lead. So we had to limit mobile, which is not sustainable. You know, at that time, I think it was like 40% of Facebook traffic was on mobile. Now it's close to 60, I think. So we've built with this in mind, you know, and this is what we're watching as we look at trends, as we decide where we're going to go next. But the mobile share on Facebook is just going up and up and up and up. So that was really interesting. And then on the other side, one of the devices that contributed conversions on, or spend on the other side, was the iPod, which I thought was really weird. I just thought I would mention that here. So,
and so
if you guys, if there's anybody looking for homes on their iPod, we can help them as well.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, and not everyone is in the latest iPhone. So everyone that is asking, so the Facebook group you need to join, independently of this, you should be there, is the CINC Owners Mastermind Group. And I'll ask Jamie in the follow-up email to this to put a link. But if you go to Facebook, it's there. So I think we have probably 10 minutes more ahead of us in this. I'll start. So Harry's going to give us 3 quick Facebook recommendations to implement today, and Dan is going to give us his 2 minutes speech of what a healthy ad campaign should have, and then I'll close for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll let you go. So Harry, what are the recommendations for today?
So really quick, just put together some quick ideas on, you know, if you're looking to add to Facebook, or if you're wanting to kind of change up what you're doing, these are some things that could make a lot of sense. So listing ads for properties, you know, with virtual tours, we can drive traffic to that tour. Assistance programs or unique selling propositions that you may have. So this was an ad for a service that Compass offered that we created with the help of our clients. And then, you know, of course, just the dynamic property advertising, you know, Listcast, which I know, Alvaro, you're going to add.
Get on Listcast. Yes, you absolutely should be on Listcast.
Yeah, so I think now it's even more important. So yeah, and that's all.
And
you know,
just remind them, because they're asking, Harry, you just have to go to the Facebook group that we mentioned. Just give us a comment on what you like the most about today there, and then we'll reach out to set you up with Listcast if you don't have it, or add a handle already to what you have today.
Yep, CINC Owners Mastermind. Just look for the picture of me in my goalie gear.
Okay, Dan, give us, what is a healthy distribution of spend?
Okay, so actually, you guys have touched on it, but just when an account launches, we generally we definitely recommend that you diversify your spend. It doesn't make any sense to have exclusively Google versus with a selection of without having a selection of Facebook and Listcast. And that's something that's very frustrating to Harry, especially when we'll have somebody launch at 2,500 Google and no Facebook, no Listcast. And especially the thing about the Listcast is, Alvaro talks about it all the time, Harry talks about it all the time, but literally these are the best leads, and they're the cheapest leads and the best quality leads. So it's like, why is not everybody on Listcast? So we launch people with a combination of Google Buyer. Generally, it's conventionally it's around $500 ad spend. It'll be a mix of $300 on Google Buyer, $100 on Facebook, and then $100 on Listcast. And then over time, that's all buyer. And then over time, you should diversify even more based on what your needs are, such as if you want seller leads, you should start doing seller advertising. We don't recommend it from the beginning because the cost per lead on seller is higher, especially on Google. Google seller, the cost per lead is roughly 50% higher than Google buyer leads. It's around maybe $8 versus $5 for Google buyer leads. So we don't recommend you start with Google seller. They're also a longer term sale. So we want you to get in there and immediately get some good results. So with the Google buyer has the shortest term to become a sale, and Facebook is a little bit cheaper, but it'll take around a year or so for that lead to become a sale. So, but it establishes your pipeline. And then Listcast, which is great, that is kind of the best of both worlds in that it's a Google. Many times, especially if you have a very large Google budget and you don't have Listcast, you're throwing money away because you're getting it's Google quality leads for a Listcast price or for Facebook price. It's like $3 a lead, and you're getting a Google quality lead because it is somebody who came from Google usually. So. Anyway, so we recommend you diversify, and then based on what your demands are. Also, we also have a remarketing product that's a branded remarketing, and if somebody has a $5,000 ad spend, it doesn't make any sense not to have a $200 remarketing branded advertising, because all your leads and all the people who have been to your site will see your face with your arms crossed looking like a good realtor. And it's a good way to establish your presence in the market, and especially now because people aren't driving around looking at billboards anymore. They're looking at billboard ads on the computer. So that's another thing we recommend. But again, we can diversify. We recommend you diversify, but we can do whatever you want just to fit your needs, whether buyers or sellers, Facebook or Google or Listcast. That's about it.
And Jeff, just so you know, Dan is a Google Suite guy all the way. So you're wrong in that he likes Excel. So so guys, first of all, before I do my closing here, I want to just thank Dan and Harry. I know that they've been sleeping 30% less than before and working nonstop on both ends of the candle, or whatever that expression is, to make sure that that you guys are getting the best service in this moment. So Dan, Harry, thank you so much for all of this. So okay, so let me just to close what I wanted to say, because I think the biggest question of all in our minds, independently of Google and search and traffic, is, I think Jeff had asked before, what does this mean? Yes, more traffic up, more leads, less leads. Will this result in business? And I have to say that I absolutely think that it will. There's nothing more inelastic than the need to sell or buy houses. That doesn't go up or down with the economy. I've been through two major crises. One you probably don't know about. I was in Argentina in 2001 when the world ended for us. All banks defaulted. The currency went to be worth a third of what it was. So whatever you had in the bank was worth a third the day after. We had riots on the street, and we had everything on shutdown. And in that crisis, the number of homes bought and sold was 15% less than the year before. even though our world stopped for months. And that was one. Then, of course, we had the US in 2008, and we had the big confidence in real estate crisis. So it was not just the huge impact that it had in the economy in the US as a whole, but specifically people stopped trusting real estate as an investment and in general. And you would think by what happened that no homes were sold that year, but 4.1 million homes were sold that year. And in the last year, 2019, where everything was doing great and we're all on a bull market, we sold 5.3. So the difference between this last year, which was an awesome year, 2019, and 2008 was a 20% down. And there's a reason for that. And if you go back to the business school books, it's all about whether demand and supply are inelastic. And if you think of the 5 reasons why people buy or sell real estate, it's for life events, yes? And every realtor will tell you it's change of job, it's getting married, it's getting divorced, it's having kids, having your kids leave your house. None of those things stop happening because of this. In fact, if you were trending to a divorce, being quarantined for a month will get you there. and you're not going to say, I'm going to wait 6 months to stop living with this person, because you can't. And the same happens with weddings. And I am pretty sure more kids are happening right now than ever before. So all of those life events are not changing. And they're not, one can wait a few months to get married if things are tough. But the truth is, if you're having kids and you need a bigger place, you need it. And if you lost your job, very unfortunately, in this crisis, you're gonna have to size down. And with a lot of people putting their houses in the market, and remember that different than 2008, we've had an undersupply that all of you guys know, it's been a seller's market. And so as we have more people putting houses on the market, we also have more investors wanting to come into real estate. With mortgage rates being on the floor and with the stock market being the most unpredictable than it has ever been, real estate is a great investment. So I am absolutely sure that this year we will have more than 4.1, and I'd say closer to 5 million homes bought and sold. That's going to happen. That for me is a fact. The question is, who is going to capture that business? And my favorite, I always quote, my favorite philosopher is Mike Tyson, when he said, well, everyone has a plan until I punch them in the face. And that's the thing. We've all just gotten the biggest Chuck Norris round kick that we could have ever gotten. And there's people's going to react in different ways, because yes, the demand and supply of houses is inelastic, but you know what's very elastic? Real estate realtors, because it's the buyers to entry are so low and the buyers to exit are so low that when things are good, a lot of people decide to be in real estate and they think it's easier than it is. And when things get bad, a lot of those people get out of it. So business overall might be down 10% this year, if I'm to guess, by the end of the year. But your business should be at least steady, because for those who stay and fight, there's going to be more business than before, because a lot of people will be out of this market. And so all of the realtors that want to be out of this business and that are going to blame the virus or the economy or what politicians did, and if they shut down too much or too little, they're doing that to sleep better. Because the ones that have the means and the mindset to stay and fight are going to have a good year. Maybe not the greatest year, but a good year, a solid year. And that mindset and those means are critical at this point. And our job is to give you that mean. And you can bet your donkey that we are going to give you that mean. All of our team is working overtime. Our client service hours are extended. We're doing live trainings every day. So you'll find that in our Facebook owners group. We're doing live training every day. You should, all your agents that are not, if they're not calling, which they should be in training. All of those people that are in Facebook saying, oh, no, stay, yes, just watch more Netflix. We should cancel our Netflix accounts. This is the moment to do more than ever. And we are going to be here for you, and we're going to keep doing as much as we can to give you those means for you to capture all of those home sales that are going to happen, whether it's next month or the following month or it's Q3. All of that business is going to happen, and it should be in your hands. So you're going to listen from a lot of people tell you stay healthy, stay safe. Not from me, not this week. Stay strong, keep fighting, stay productive. We're going to come out of this winning. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next one.